Lennon here with Fightlete Report, back on Talking Shop. And now we are joined by the host of MMA Junkie Radio. Well, it's not radio now, it's MMA Junkie Podcast, just to correct myself. Gorgeous George Garcia, we're inviting him on Fightlete Report, Talking Shop. Once again, we're going to talk about UFC277, a great lineup of fights that are happening this Saturday, but we'll specifically talk about the main event, the co-main event, get his thoughts on that, get his thoughts on the Dana White Contender Series, which I know was controversial last night as well. And, hear about his thoughts of mixed martial arts. There's so many great fights coming up, so many great fights happening right now, and can't wait to hear from him. And so, George, want to thank you for being on the show. Want to get your thoughts, first of all, on last week's main event, because if you think about it, this is the second time an injury stopped the UFC fight, I believe 2 weeks in a row. So what was your thoughts on that as we saw, the big fight between Curtis Blades scheduled last Saturday night?
How long are we going to do this show?
What's up?
How long are we going to do this show?
I was going to aim for like 30 minutes.
How about an hour?
Okay, an hour's good by me.
All right, good. So we'll get to the whole Curtis Blades thing. I need to know, why am I getting invited back to Fightlete Radio once a year when it used to be like once a month, once every other month? I got cut. I got demoted. What the hell's going on here?
No, not at all, man.
This guy loses 80 pounds. All of a sudden, he's got new friends, a new clique, and he just leaves us fat dudes behind. What the heck, Sean Lennon?
Well, sometimes I just, I got so much going on. Well, believe it or not, let's rewind back. So about 7 months ago, I had an MMA promoter named Jesse Nunes, who runs a show called Elite Fight Night, Elite Amateur Fight League. He comes to me with this idea, Sean, I want you to book a professional wrestling show with me. And I took this challenge. Never booked a show in my life. Never booked an MMA event. Never booked a professional wrestling event. Thought it would be easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Oh, wow. But you tried it and you did it, right? Did the show go off?
The show, unfortunately, last Monday night was canceled due to a lack of ticket sales. And so, let me tell you,
it got canceled, huh?
Yes, after all the work, it was coinciding with Elite Fight Night, which is Jesse Nunes' MMA promotion, which was running on August 20th. And so August 19th was Only Stars Wrestling.
Did Jesse Nunes still compensate you for your time?
Unfortunately not. The deal was only if the show profited would I get paid. So, Jesse did not. I probably won't be at the next Elite Fight Night, event, but unfortunately, MMA events in regionally is few and far between. So I have heat with the one promotion that is running more consistently, and that's another story for another time. So I kind of dropped out of doing MMA. I still watch every UFC pay-per-view, but covering MMA events. And then unfortunately, Chicago, we haven't had UFC, we haven't had Bellator, or we had the LFA that came through. So I did cover that event. So I've been pretty much relegated to just, if I want to cover all amateur events, which I really have no interest in, or the promotions that do come here, which are few and far between. We just had LFA and haven't had anything since then, and nothing a year prior to that, due to COVID-19.
You can add, you guys haven't had an NBA team in Chicago as well to that list. And then aside from that, Jesse Nunes needs to give you at least $1,000, man. You did a lot of work. What the hell?
I know, man. Tell me about it.
Send him an invoice, something, get it started.
Yeah, well, he lost money, so he's not there's no chance of that happening. And so basically, Elite Fight Night was the last event I covered, which was back in June, and we got to see some great regional action. Right. I actually got to see Bigfoot Silva's daughter.
He's got a daughter?
No, I had no clue until Jesse told me his daughter was fighting on the card.
Wow. So you saw her fight?
Yeah, we got to interview her as well. I haven't posted the interviews.
Is she pretty good?
She was good. She's now 3-0. And she trained, you guess who else I got to catch up with? Josias GZ Cavalcante. He was her coach.
He's so cool, man. I really like that guy.
Yes. We took a picture, and and everything. Got to post that up. Sam Alvey, I believe. I don't know if he was at this one, but he's usually at these events. He's usually doing a cornering and stuff. And one of the other people, the coaches from one of the top teams in Michigan, Scorpion Fighting Systems, he was there too. He was actually the commentator.
Speaking of Bigfoot, man, did you see he's had 2 losses in the last 2 months? That guy just needs to hang it up, you know, like I'm not trying to be disrespectful or nothing, but those 2 along with all the others, that's not good. You know what I mean? That's a lot of concussions, and I really hope he can just maybe focus on the daughter, a la Frank Mir, the way he's focusing on his daughter, the way, you know, or just sometimes within a family, like we'll say that I don't think they're married, but the fiance team of Rose Namajunas and Pat Barry, look at him. He walked away. Now he's on her. I would really love for Bigfoot. I didn't know about that story about him having a daughter, but I'd really love for him to just focus on her and call it a career. He contended for a title, didn't go his way, but still, you know, I think he can be proud of what he accomplished when he was at the top. Right now, what we're seeing out of Bigfoot is nowhere near the Bigfoot we remember. So anyway, it's funny because I asked you a question. Why haven't you had me on for a year? I don't think you answered it. We've talked for like the last 10 minutes. Somehow you're like you're like the Barry Sanders of MMA media. You just juke and jive and nobody can wrap their arms around you or anything like that. How did you dodge that question? I just figured that out right now. I was like, wait a minute, you never answered.
I've actually done limited MMA coverage just because leading up with this pro wrestling show, and I got into doing pro wrestling interviews and doing stuff for my pro wrestling podcast. I'll be honest, I haven't done as much for Fightlete, so I'm looking to get that in. I figured we'll start with, you know, Gorgeous George. You always are a great content provider. Like I said, I've been watching everything. I've watched The Ultimate Fighter. I've watched the Contender Series. I've watched, you know, all the UFC pay-per-views.
What'd you think of Pena versus Nunes?
The original fight?
No. Well, yeah, sure. If you want to throw that in. I mean, I don't think Nunes showed up, but, you know, Pena, probably one of your homegirls out there in Chicago. She showed up, you know what I mean? So that's cool. But I want to ask you, what'd you think of Tough?
Well, see, I thought I was going to start off with you because, you know, I just finished watching The Ultimate Fighter and I thought it was a good season. I think that this season focused on what mattered is the combativeness and you know, the techniques and the drilling and less of the drama. I thought we saw more of that and less of what we didn't want to see, you know, this season. What did you think?
See, I don't like to save the drama for my mama. I like the drama. And not that I want them punching, you know, doors like Quentin Rampage Jackson or playing pranks on each other. I'm kind of over that. But I do want them to chirp a little bit. And Juliana can run her mouth, you know, she's a motor mouth. And I was waiting for Nunes to maybe say something or whatever, or for maybe Pena to take the lead. But it never showed up. Now, that said, I only watched, I think they're on episode 12 or whatever they made it to. And I must have done about 8 of them. I just fell off, brother. Somewhere around the first week of June, I got COVID. And so I live in Vegas. I was taking my mom back to California. She had been staying with us for a few weeks. And as we were driving back, when we got there, that night, Goze, my brother, who I live with here in Vegas, he calls me to tell me he tested positive. So at the time, I was negative, and so was my mom. Now, we had just been with him for 3 weeks. So I had a feeling it was just a matter of time. He had actually gone to the AEW show here in Las Vegas. So I think that's where he got it. And so what happened was it caused me to stay in California a few days while I was staying negative. What Goze was positive, no sense in coming back home. And then next thing you know, it eventually got to my mom and I, and we were positive. And after that, man, I just, you know, I didn't have my TV with all the programming that I save over here, you know, and then COVID just threw me for a loop. But by the time I got back to Vegas, my head was spinning trying to catch up on things and do stuff. Now, that said, what I did watch, I was impressed with both ladies. And as much as I don't like to admit it, I'm a little bit of a misogynist, to tell you the truth. I was thinking, now what are some heavyweight men going to actually take from 2 bantamweight women that they can apply? You know, like, yeah, maybe a technique here or there, whatever. But, man, those men are bigger men than me, literally. They actually took the time to listen to their coaches, you know, and of course I'm kidding, man. You know, I respect those women. They, you know, Amanda's the GOAT of women's MMA.
Yes.
And Juliana defeated the GOAT of women's MMA. And they came to coach. And you could tell they were into it. It meant a lot to them. So that part, I'll give it up. But I really wanted them to build it up because what I like is at the end, the payoff. I like big fights, lots of eyeballs, huge gates, tons of pay-per-view sales, and big checks, big fat checks that each fighter can take home. So that's why I always promote it. A lot of people tell me that I'm consumed with, money. I don't get none of it. I want them to get it. You know, now granted, of course, MMA Junkie grows as the sport grows, I suppose. Yeah, sure, we get our raises and things like that. But I want our sport to be on par with the other sports, or at least be in the neighborhood. You know, that's what Dana White used to say. I'm going to be with the NFL and MLB and NHL and NBA one day. And you know, he's made strides in that direction, but fighter pay still lacking a little bit. Now, hopefully it catches. I don't care if I don't want it to just jump from 18%, which is the rumor now, you know, to 50 overnight. I get that, slowly but surely, you know, along the way. But it seems like the UFC's done very, very well revenue-wise the last few years, and so I want the athletes to start catching up, and you know, that's my whole thing there. So yeah, to answer your question, tough. I'd give it about a 7. I was expecting about 8.5. I'll give it a 7, but I still enjoyed it, and I may still try and bust through those last 4 episodes before Saturday.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, you have to like next Saturday, because next Saturday is actually the tough finals. I don't know if you want it to be revealed.
Oh, that's true, huh? Yeah, I guess I was thinking in time for their fight this time. You know, the one on Saturday, the rematch. But all right. So you asked me another question too. You asked, I'll get it done by next Saturday. Tough. And but you asked me about Dana White Contender Series. I went through the weirdest thing yesterday. So I went through the first 3 seasons, I think, to pretty much every week. And once they got out of that fucking armpit, the old Tough gym, that it was super hot with no air conditioning or anything, and then they made it to the Apex. It was like a great Tuesday night, tough to beat, man. You get fights, air conditioning, cushioned seats, and so it's hard to top, right? But then COVID hit. And so then I didn't go at all when they came back. You know, even though I was vaccinated and all that, I still just wanted to like withdraw a little bit. So I didn't go last year. And this year I wanted to go, and I may still try and go, but yet again, we're in another surge. And because I just had it, I don't want to get it again. Anyway, and I hate wearing the mask for long periods of time. I'm a fat bastard. I get sweaty. But yesterday I'm sitting down. I have it on my screen, Sean. I just sat there and I didn't have much interest. I don't know why. I don't know what got into me, man. I don't know if it's become an MMA snob and I only want to see the highest levels or what. Or maybe it's so much MMA that it drives you nuts. Don't forget, last week we had one championship. Bellator 283, I believe. UFC Fight Night in London. Like, dude, literally, you know, and then we do our shows. I have to do rankings, spinning back. Like literally on a Tuesday, you want to take a deep breath. But I was staring at it. I was trying to watch it, and there was some boring fight, and I started to nod off.
Yeah. I heard that there wasn't the most exciting one to start off the season.
Yeah, and think about it. We're hardcores, and we're still struggling to stay interested in this, you know, like maybe I need to put $100 on each fight, and then for sure I'll pay attention. But like, yeah, man, Dana White Contender Series, I like it. And I thought it was going to be the end of Tough, but apparently they want to keep both.
Yeah. Typically for me, summers is hard to keep up with all the fight night action because there's so much going on. I go out, you know what I'm saying, and nothing really is keeping me engaged where I have to watch it. I watch all the pay-per-views, of course, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, summers are tough, you know, when you're in Chicago and there's so much other stuff going on with your friends and family. Yeah.
And who can blame you? You know, it's like I say, I mean, you know, throw in bare knuckle, the occasional boxing match, Eagle FC. I watched a little bit of Eagle FC. We got PFL coming up. It really, really is a lot. And, you know, how about the times where you tune in for a fight? Each fight, it honestly can be about a 30 to 45-minute investment. Why do I say that? Because from the time they tell you, okay, coming up next is Lorenz Larkin. He's going to be facing Takashi Sato, I believe his name was. You know, when we come back, we'll give you the tail of the tape. You know, they got a commercial, then they come back, and then they, you know, run a couple of minutes or two on each one, telling you what they're from, what the fight's all about. Then they come down the stage, the Vaseline, hugging the corners, the introductions, this, that, another commercial, maybe, I don't know. And then you have, you know, a no contest. You're like, fuck, no resolution. Sorry, can I cuss?
Oh, fine. That's fine
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you're like, man, I wanted Lorenz to maybe threaten Jason Jackson and Douglas Lima later on. He's got a 5-fight win streak. Maybe Lorenz can supersede them to fight the winner of Amosov versus Logan Storley. You know, I'm thinking then that goes to a waste. Okay, a bunch more commercials, reset. Here we go again.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then we get to Jason Jackson, Douglas Lima, and rinse and repeat. You know, no finish. Ah, man, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little spoiled, or I'm getting, you know, bored. Who knows, man? I need fighters to go out there and fight and go for the finish. Cruise control does nothing for me. It's the first thing that makes me want to tune out.
Yeah, and the Bellator broadcaster can be particularly brutal because they're going back to the broadcast desk and talking about each fight afterwards. And
yeah, and I'm a big fan of John McCarthy and Mauro Ranallo. Yeah. I think they do an excellent job. John's really, really settled into that spot nicely. Mm-hmm. The fact that he can chime in on rules and regulations and refereeing, mechanics, judging, I think is a great thing. You know, I don't know if you saw I think it was the Larkin fight. You know, he was explaining the elbow intention and illegal and this and that and the no contest. Man, that was valuable stuff, you know, because a lot of people are thinking if the blow's illegal, why isn't he getting disqualified? And John's saying because the intent wasn't there when he threw it. He wasn't trying. He doesn't believe that he was trying to purposely hit the back of the head. He was aiming for the elbow. He just missed, and that's the difference, you know. So, yeah. Anyway, and because I like other sports as well, I just can easily get distracted.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, there's so much going on with baseball and international football, and especially during the summer. So it's tough to keep that engaged. But I feel like the last fights we saw for UFC, I felt like Patty the Batty Pimblett, you know, obviously he's a big star. Molly Meatball McCann is coming into her own as well. You can't just ignore them. Like they're definitely the future of UFC. And then we got, unfortunately, to the main event.
Right, which you asked me about, and so we'll go there. Blades versus Aspinall. So that fight card, I think, had 12 fights and 8 went to a decision. Mm-hmm. We had 4 finishes. And when we got to Blades and Aspinall, I was a little frustrated because Chris Curtis, who was in the co-main event against Jack Hermanson, he is part of the gym over here at Extreme Couture. So I was homering for him, you know. I also bet him. And I was bummed because I thought it was right for the pickings. He's 4-0 as a middleweight, and he's really a welterweight. But he hasn't lost, so he's just going for it. He's taking fights on short notice. He's slowly coming up the charts, and you know, I thought, man, even though Hermanson got that first round, Hermanson tends to get tired before his opponents. And I thought if and Chris has great cardio, and I thought if Chris can just push it, he may be able to win one of the next 2 or even knock him out. And I kept waiting and waiting, and never came. Chris kind of got caught up and got a little frustrated, and they started yapping at each other. And Jack was smart. You know, Jack didn't want to get lulled into a street fight. He was using all 8 limbs, like Michael Bisping said, elbows, knees, kicks, punches, you know, movement. And Chris wanted him to just phone booth fight and just stand there and throw. And Jack was smart, you know. So I was bummed because I thought Chris could have won that fight. And so now we get to the main event, and I'm thinking, all right, here we go. You know, even though Blades is known for his wrestling, and I thought that was the path to victory, and I had money on Blades, I thought, man, this guy at home, he is gonna fight.
Yeah.
You know, he's gonna rise to the occasion. This ain't gonna be easy. But Blades likes to throw hands. His hands have gotten way better. So when they started throwing, I could hear it. I could hear the leather slapping. And I go, oh, this thing's going to end very, very soon. And it did. I just couldn't believe that it ended the way it did. And I definitely hope Tom Aspinall doesn't have a serious knee injury. First, we heard it could be the type of injury that keeps you out a year. Then they said on the broadcast that the doctor's first observation was a possible MCL, but that also means he could come back possibly sooner. I haven't followed up to see what the situation is. Maybe I should just go on his social media and see, but it was disappointing, man.
Yeah, it is. It's, and it was like you said, like the second week in a row that happened as well.
It was, yeah, and you're right. But you know, Molly McCann did bring the house down. So did Patty Pimblett. That duo, that dynamic duo, is just doing great. You know, for British MMA.
Yeah.
And they, you know, for the city of Liverpool, where they're from, I think they're going to get themselves a show sometime. I don't know if it'll be that stadium show they're looking for, but definitely, you know, I think they're going to even graduate the pay-per-view. At least Patty for sure is. And
yeah,
it looks like they want to keep them together. So expect to see Patty Pimblett fight in Las Vegas in like early December. That's kind of what I'm hearing. And I guess Molly Meatball will be on the same card.
True. And they're both, you know, really good fighters. I mean, Molly McCann she's been fighting for quite some time. I mean, she fought outside UFC and Cage Warriors and other promotions. I think she was cornering, she was actually, you know, I actually met her and saw in person. She was cornering Amanda Bobby Cooper back in 2017 for her fight.
Oh, very
UFC.
cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that they were training partners.
Yeah. Well, I think they were temporarily. It was like a thing where she came over to U.S. and on a visa to train and coach.
I like Meatball Molly.
Yeah, me too.
I think drunk Meatball Molly can maybe be a bit much, you know, but look, she was having fun. She just brought the house down in front of 18,000. Let her drink all the Hollerhead she wants.
Right.
But yeah, look, what I liked about this fight with Meatball Molly was she came out, she was very composed and poised, and she had a slow walkout, and it seemed like she was very calm and grounded, and that was good, man, because she likes to throw, right? Mm-hmm. She gets in there and she goes out there and she slowly stalks her prey, eventually finds certain openings, you know, and then she went to work, and then when she spotted that she could land that spinning back elbow, she did. Then threw some strikes. It was a thing of beauty. You know, I have to give her props because I think early on it looked like she was more of a, you know, like the proverbial tough man contest, or I guess in this, the tough woman contest, just kind of slinging leather, loopy punches, taking one or taking three to get one off. No, this time she definitely looked way more composed, and with the popularity that she has, you know, she was brilliant in calling out Antonina Shevchenko, because to get to the champ, I think one way to get the champ's attention is to go through the sister, and she did it respectfully. I think they'll both stand and fight. They're both on the same timeline because Antonina won a few weeks ago. So I thought that was great, you know, and now am I getting too excited? Probably, because Talia Santos will probably get some sort of a rematch at some point. And if Pena beats Nunes, don't be surprised if Valentina goes up to fight Pena. She's 1-0 against her, and who doesn't want to be a champ nowadays? Yeah. But I could see maybe Molly McCann in the future fighting Valentina Shevchenko. If she can get past Antonina, might have to win one more fight.
It's true. Definitely. I can't wait to see her, you know, back in action. Hopefully maybe her and Patty will be on the same card again. Maybe they'll fight in Vegas.
I think so. I think in December. And the Shevchenkos live in Vegas, so I think that would probably be music to their ears. And Talia Santos has an injury. She fought very valiantly against Valentina a few months ago in Singapore. So everyone's excited for that rematch, but I guess she was I guess she's got a couple injuries that she needs to get through first. So eventually that fight will get signed at some point, and that's exciting for all these ladies I mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. I think Talia definitely deserves a rematch against Shevchenko.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Yeah.
In Brazil. I want to see it in Brazil. Valentina loves to travel the world and fight. It seems like she's a world traveler to start with, but that's kind of been her deal even before she got to MMA. She lived in Thailand for a while.
Yeah.
She lived in Peru for a while. She's originally from Kyrgyzstan. She lived in Houston for a while. Now she's in Las Vegas. I know she's got a boat that she owns up in Washington. I think she's up there now. So I bet you that would be music to her ears if she got to defend her title in Brazil.
Did you get to watch her in the movie she did with Halle Berry?
No, man, I can't lie. If this was 2 years ago, I probably would have lied and said, yeah, I saw that shit. I didn't see it.
Okay.
I want to. I like Halle Berry and I like Valentina. But for some reason, like, you know what? I'm going to write it down right now. I'm going to write it down. I always have a note sheet with me. And I put down notes throughout the time. I just can't rely on my memory like I used to. And I'm going to write Val and Halle movie. And now I just got to track it down and see if it's on Netflix or where it is.
Yeah, Netflix.
And then sit down and just see it. What happens is my brother or someone will go, you got to see Narcos or something. And I'm not the type to go, okay, 2-3 episodes, man. I dive in. Season 1 done. All right. Season 2 done. Let's do that one. By the time that is done, something else starts up and things just get buried and buried and buried. But there's been a few things I want to see, and that's one of them. Is it good?
Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't like, the most authentic MMA movie made.
Yeah.
It was basically her story, about growing up in the tough times, you know what I mean? And rough childhood, whatever. So
did you ever see Halle in Boomerang, or is that before your time?
I heard of the movie, but I never seen it.
So Boomerang came out in the early 90s. I think this is what put her on the map.
Okay.
And it was with Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy, I believe you could say, was still a superstar back then. He was a great comic. Right. And then he got into the movies. And he does a movie with her and I forget her name, but Robin Gibbons, the one that was married with Tyson. And so in the movie, Eddie Murphy's a little bit of a playboy. I don't want to give it away. I really think it's a quality movie. And I think you'd enjoy it. It's got a great soundtrack. You should check it out.
I will. And did you hear that Kat Zingano actually sued Halle Berry for her role in the movie? She was dismissed or something.
Yeah, was she supposed to be part of Valentina originally?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh. Can you do that? Can you sue someone? I mean, if you couldn't deliver, I don't know. What's she claiming?
Well, she said that she missed a vital UFC fight so she could be in the movie.
Okay.
And so she's suing a lawsuit after she was cut from the movie Bruised.
Why'd they cut her from the movie?
It doesn't say exactly, but I know she declined a UFC fight the same year so she could be in the film.
Well, I guess if they have a good reason for cutting her, I don't think she has much of a case.
Yeah.
But if they promised her and it was in writing, and then when they showed up, they go, nah, we're not going to go with you. Right. Yeah, that kind of sucks. But I don't know. I thought that seems like Kat's been with Bellator for about 2-3 years now.
This was back a couple, like before the pandemic. So apparently Zingano, what happened was she was cut from the movie because she lost her opportunity to fight. She was cut from the UFC. And then the movie people said, well, you're not a UFC fighter. We only want UFC fighters to be in the movie. So she was double cut.
Like she bit her own tail. Okay.
Basically, yeah. So she should have not done the movie and done the fight. Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't really read up on it until recently when I saw the movie.
I like Kat, man. I find her interesting. I wish she would fight more often. Yeah. And I wish she would have fought Chris when she had the chance before, but I guess she's putting her foot down about these PEDs. Now Chris is technically a free agent, so who knows if Chris sounds like she wants to box. Now that doesn't mean that Kat can't become a champion, right? Because if they relinquish the belt, there's a vacant belt there. So that's cool, but you always become a bigger star, and you know this term, when you get put over by the former champion. If she were to to beat Chris Santos, that's what could make a fighter a bigger star is by defeating that person. Like Juliana Pena, I mean, she was a well-known fighter. She took a few years off when she became a mom. She had a couple injuries, but beating Amanda really, really took her to another level, you know? And so that's what beating Cyborg could do for Kat. But now if Cyborg's not around, who knows? I respect what she's saying, that if she, you know, wants the additional testing. I feel like that's it takes me back about 10 years to Hendricks and GSP and, you know, all the stuff that they were insisting for additional testing outside of what the UFC used to do before USADA came on board. And it makes me appreciate USADA even more now. We don't even bat an eye or think about anything nowadays because it seems like USADA's got that, you know, on lock.
Yeah, true. But a lot of fighters, they have USADA that comes in and things doesn't go their way, and they'll suffer, like, you know, long suspensions than they should have had.
Yeah. You know, okay, look, fighters seem to complain a lot. And that's one thing I've definitely figured out. That's just what they're going to do. They're going to put everyone on blast when things don't go their way. Usually the fans side with them. But man, when I've gone on the USADA website, when I went to the original press conference, when they, you know, brought them on board, to me, it seemed like dummy proof. You know, on your phone, you have an app, and all you do is update where you're going to be. And then when they call, just be ready to take the test. Now, the 6 a.m. stories, I get that, man. Some of those must suck, you know. But at the same time, that's, you know, that they're kind of doing it to everyone, and they're helping to keep the sport clean. One thing that does suck is the fighters didn't collectively bargain for this. It was just thrown on the plate. You know, hey, guess what? You got USADA, which is a good thing, but you know, it's not like it's not like all the fighters wanted that. Who knows? Maybe some of them wanted to keep poking themselves in the butt. I don't know. But, you know, it seems like a pretty easy thing to do. Most of them don't complain. That's why I usually tend to think that it's not as big of a deal as some make it out to be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on to the card this Saturday. I mean, are you excited? You're going to be watching it from home, or you're
Goze and I are hosting a watch along on MMA Junkie.
Okay.
One of those fight companions that you often hear about. And we're excited. You know, we do this for all the pay-per-views. We got 2 title fights, and Pavolovich versus Lewis is going to be great. Ankalaev against Anthony Smith.
Yes.
And then you got Perez versus Pantoja. So, like, that main card is really, really nice. Is it the best main card I've ever seen? No, I'm not going to lie to you. But it's still pretty damn solid. And it seems like every fight is pretty compelling, at least within its own division. So I'm expecting good action. UFC fight nights have just become like so cool, man, because a lot of my friends, especially after the pandemic, kind of gravitated towards the sport. The celebrities are watching, other athletes are watching, the athletes we cover, the fellow media members, everyone's chiming in on Twitter. So it's kind of cool that we're all watching the same thing. So kudos to the UFC for taking it to a new level, man. With each pay-per-view, it's really, really a great fight night.
I'm glad it's not coinciding with a Canelo fight. Seems like UFC fights always coincide with Canelo. I mean, it did a couple months ago, and you know what I mean? And people have to choose which one they want to watch. I mean, because boxing is still, you know, predominantly the most popular combat sport, you know, like in terms of like, you know, instant popularity for one fight, you know, like it would be a Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Mayweather, you know, that one fight, you know, will sell people.
Yeah, for sure. The Mayweather and Pacquiao days were tremendous. Yeah. And I've been to each guy, I've been to one of their boxing matches just to take it in and see it. And it's pretty damn special. So you're right. There's certain key fighters in boxing, including Canelo, maybe even now Tyson Fury, if he continues boxing, where it's hard, you know, it's hard to beat them when it comes to the trends and the popularity on fight night versus a UFC card, especially if it's a pay-per-view.
Right.
But I think overall, from January to December, the UFC's, along with the other MMA that comes with it, I think it's bigger than boxing, just because it's more and a lot more high quality, consistent. And it's different types of finishes. No two UFCs are the same. So boxing, like I say, when they're loaded, they sting pretty hard. But then there's some weeks where there's just not as much boxing, or at least the high level boxing. And I noticed a lot of new MMA fans, a lot of traffic on our site. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's great to know. And so when we talk about the card, let's talk about the main event with Nunes and Pena. How do you feel this two match up in this rematch? We're going to talk about UFC 277. Let's get into the third to last fight. Derek the Black Beast Lewis against Sergey Pavolovich. What do you think, George?
Well, someone's going to sleep. I mean, Derek Lewis, we all know about his power. Pavolovich is on a 3-fight win streak, all the fights ending in the first round. He can match his size. He's all of 6'3" as well. Derek Lewis about 6'4". Maybe Derek Lewis has some size on him because come fight night, he'll probably outweigh him by about 40 pounds. But Pavolovich is also younger than Derek Lewis. This fight, breaking it down, I don't want to disrespect it and say it's a waste of time, but you know what? It's kind of a waste of time, and I'll tell you why. Because what I've learned from watching Lewis and Tuivasa, Lewis and Blades, I mean, everything you expect, it doesn't happen, but yet the unexpected is still pretty interesting. You know what I mean? I didn't think Derek Lewis would beat Curtis Blades, for example, if we go back a few fights. And he winds up KOing him. I wasn't expecting Curtis Blades, I guess, to fight the way he did that night. Right. And then against Ciryl Gane, I thought maybe he might have a good chance against Ciryl Gane, especially the longer it went, the longer they remained standing. Lewis just doesn't go away, But they went a whole 3 rounds, and that during that time, I mean, Gane just picked them apart, man. The thing that concerns me with Lewis is now that he's made a lot of money, he knows it. He knows he's a big name. I don't know if he trains as hard as he used to when he was younger and hungrier and up and coming. He's had 2 title fights. Unfortunately, he's come up short. But at the same time, it doesn't mean he's not there to win. He definitely is. Pavolovich, like I said, though, is younger, and I'll never go against Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is a guy that went on a military trip with us, and even though I haven't spoken to him in a few years, it was very nice of him to hang out with us, to visit the troops. So I'll always root for him. I'm going to predict a Lewis KO, and I would say second round. It ain't going to happen early. I know they're 2 heavy hitters, but I think they're 2 heavy hitters that are going to be respectful of each other's power.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go with Pavolovich. I think he's going to knock him. He's going to knock out the Black Beast.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is possible.
Yeah.
Like I say, Lewis can take a pretty good punch, but Tuivasa, I believe, was the last guy to get him in his last fight. And I think that one even happened in Houston. And I had just forgotten that Lewis is now, in his upper 30s. He's 37, and I don't know. I don't know if it's the beginning of the downfall of the career or where he's at. Pavolovich is certainly capable of beating him. I can't call you crazy.
Well, I have to say, Derek Lewis is very entertaining. Seems like a wonderful person.
Exactly, he is. And I tried to tell him a few times, hey, bro, I know all you care about is getting paid, but if you become champ, you're gonna get paid. Like, literally, work as hard as you can and become champ, and all that you wanted will come with it, in bigger increments. But I don't know. It seems like he almost kind of looks the same in every fight.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
And sometimes I don't even want him to throw those head kicks. I mean, they're pretty impressive that he can do it. He'll switch kick in the middle of the air and all that. But I just want him, if he just like touches, and if he could put pressure on his opponent, he'd be really, really tough to stop. minus the guys that want to take him down. But even Stipe, he doesn't really go for takedowns.
No.
Cormier, I suppose, did against him. Blades wanted to stand with him. So heavyweight division's about having, polished hands.
Definitely. And talk about heavyweight division, Stipe Miocic, what do you think is next for him? I know he just started. Did you do an interview recently? Because he hadn't talked to anyone in months.
Maybe. Last I heard, he was going to fight. He got offered Jones in August.
Okay.
And they said, no, but I'll be ready in September. But that was like 2-3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and even Jones said, okay, I really wanted August, but I'll wait for you in September. Well, since then, August is now being promoted as Usman versus Edwards in Salt Lake City.
Right.
And that card appears to be done. I mean, maybe they'll add something. I don't know. And now we have a new headliner for UFC. Let's see, where are we at here? 279 would be September. That was supposed to be Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. But that got moved to UFC 280 with Oliveira versus Makhachev. And now
I can't wait for that one.
is Nate Diaz against Hamzat Chimaev.
I can't wait for UFC 280. Yeah, sorry.
I'm expecting now Stipe against Jones. That's kind of what everyone's been saying, right?
Yeah.
Francis isn't ready until December. Why not get this thing going?
True. And Oliveira, man, I love him. So it's just, I can't wait to see this guy fight. He's like number one on my list to watch.
He is exciting, bro. He just takes the fight to his opponents. He doesn't care if he gets clipped. He just keeps coming and coming and coming. He can wrestle. He can pick you up and take you down. If you take him down, he's got that long, wiry frame. He's attacking from the bottom. If you want to strike, he'll throw hands. When you're not expecting it, he'll, flying knee headed your way. I mean, that dude is worth every dollar they pay him. I wish they'd pay him more, honestly, because all of his fights have been super, super spectacular.
And I think he gets over the translation barrier, the language barrier. I think he translates over, as best as he can.
But imagine if he knew just a little bit of English. Imagine if he knew like some JDS English, where he could just charm the crowd or whatever. Yeah. Oh man, him and Aldo not learning a lick of English pisses me off. I wish they would just know something. Claudia Gadelia, she coached the whole season.
Yeah.
JDS, same thing. Habib, for crying out loud, he can do it. So many athletes have just taken the time to learn it, and I don't know. Maybe they could have picked up some lucrative sponsorships if they just knew a little bit more English.
It was pretty shocking, though, at UFC 200 when Jose Aldo did address the crowd in English. Remember that?
I don't. What did he say?
He was just saying, like, about his hard work and stuff. I have to go back and watch it. I watched it like a couple months ago, but he was just saying, how much he appreciates the fans and his hard work. And
I'm about to watch that. I forgot all about that.
That was the only time he ever spoke English.
Well, how about, Chael always used to tease Anderson that he knew how to speak English. It's just Anderson preferred to speak Portuguese and then get translated. But then the times when Anderson does speak English, he just has that way. He's got the high-pitched voice. But when he does talk, like I say, I think a lot of people find him charming. I've been with Fedor. I've been around Fedor when he speaks English, and it's not bad, but he always chooses to speak Russian. But the times he does, along with a little, when they smile and they kind of look at you innocently like they're trying, I'm telling you, man, fans love that. I wish they would just commit to doing that, but maybe they just don't want to get besieged with a bunch of interview requests once the cat's out of the bag, right?
Right, definitely. We'll have to get to the interim flyweight championship and Brandon Moreno, KaiKara-France, and I like the way the flyweight division has been shaping up. But obviously the champion is not available on Saturday night, so there is going to be an interim championship, which I hate. Obviously everybody hates that, but I still feel like this is a fun fight, and the division really has been highlighted the past couple years.
Bro, and how about that Matt Schnell fight from a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
That was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one hell of a comeback. Okay, so in this one, they fought before, and that's the story of Moreno's life the last few years, is running it back. you know, he had the 3 straight fights with Figueiredo. So I'm just happy he's not fighting Figueiredo. But he's fighting a guy he defeated less than 3 years ago. That I enjoyed that fight. I enjoy all flyweight fights. I think both guys have definitely gotten better since then. I expect Moreno to be a little bit different because now he's with James Krause. He left the Entram gym in Tijuana, Mexico. And I think James Krause is probably going to fill in maybe certain details to get him out of that Mexican warrior mindset of just kind of like throwing the game plan out the window and just throwing down. I think he's going to get him to be a little bit more patient and calm and reserved, like the way we were talking about Molly McCann earlier.
Right.
Find his spots, use his boxing, and if the fight can get to the ground, you know, he's got a great back take, and he can definitely attack with his jiu-jitsu. But for the most part, I think he wants him to be efficient with his hands, and he needs to get better at his defense and not just getting clipped because I'm Mexican and I can take a punch. That's not a strategy because on the other side, KaiKara-France is a sniper, you know?
Yeah.
He's very, very well evolved. He's going to kick you. He's going to punch you. He's not intimidated by anyone. I think he feels like the confidence that comes from Adesanya and Coach Behrman and the Australian guys that they hook up with as well, Volkanovski, Coach Joe Lopez. Those guys are on to something, you know, and I think he believes in the game plan. He believes in the strategy. So it's going to be a fun fight. I'm going to ride with the Mexican. I think Brandon Moreno is going to go 2-0 against him. I think it's going to take a little bit of work, but I think he can get the job done. And that experience of going 5 rounds so many times is going to be invaluable as well. So I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno. I hate to say this, but I think it's going to be a decision. But I would love nothing better than a finish. Even if KaiKara-France, who I have no problem with, just give us a finish, boys. This whole thing that once it gets to the judges, holy cow!
I know.
Woo! And especially in the state of Texas, sometimes you get a couple wild cards in there, you know. Although, let me give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Aaron Menard. He's going to be judging. He's a listener of the MMA Junkie radio show. One of those days when Herb Dean or John McCarthy was on, he heard about their judge and reffing course, and he wound up taking it. And then he slowly came up the ranks, did an LFA once on Access TV. And then this will be the first time he's doing a UFC. He'll be a judge. I don't know if he'll do one of the main fights, but I know he's going to be judging on the card. So that'll be pretty cool for us to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm going with Moreno as well. I do like it, the heart he poses and the threat he poses in this fight. But KaiKara-France is tough. I mean, he beat Askarov Bullet. He beat him. He gave him his first loss ever. So that was also impressive, you know. And
I predicted that one. I went with KaiKara-France in that fight. So I definitely am well aware of how tough he is, for sure, you know. And I'm not married to Moreno in the sense where like, oh, you're crazy. There's no way KaiKara could win. Nope, not at all, man. KaiKara-France can definitely win this fight. I don't think, maybe I'm tipping my hand here, but I think there's a fight on the main card that we're going to discuss that I don't think the other one can win. You know where I'm headed.
Yeah, well, I think that this is KaiKara-France. You know, he also knocked out Cody Garbrandt, and you know, started getting that hype behind him after that fight too.
Yeah, I like KaiKara-France, man. This is a great fight. You know, and I changed my mind on interim fights. I used to like interim fights. Then I started disliking interim fights. Now I like them again. The reason I disliked them was because the fighters were paying the belt no mind, no respect. A lot of them would get it, put it on the ground, or not want to talk about it. And I had completely forgotten, wait a minute, you're still a champ. The Undisputed wasn't ready to go for whatever reason, whether they're injured or holding out or whatever other reason. They're not ready to go. So the division's ready to move on, you know? But more importantly, circling back to the money thing, the winner of this fight, when they unify versus Davis and Figueiredo, if Davis and Figueiredo chooses to stay at 25 and not go up to 35, they're going to get pay-per-view points. So how can you not be happy for the winner?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I remember with this harkens back to when Kevin Gastelum, he showed up, and Robert Whittaker didn't show up, and he was holding Henry Cejudo's belt. And he's like, I'm a wrestler in wrestling tournament. If you don't show up, I'm crowned the winner. So I'm the champion right now.
Exactly.
So you go with that mentality, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't show up, I'm the winner.
And how about Israel Adesanya? Israel Adesanya even takes it a step further. He said that when he fought Whittaker, so it was interim against undisputed, because he won, he defended the interim belt. So he calls it a title defense. He says he's on number 6, even though the rest of us have him at number 5.
Definitely. No, but it's all a matter of opinion and stuff. But I'm going to go with Moreno on this fight. There's something tells me he'll come out with the win. I don't know if it's a finish or a decision, but he'll come out with a win.
Okay.
And then the main event, this is going to be a hard one for me to pick, Pena and Nunes. Believe it or not, I didn't pick this fight. I didn't pick it publicly. I thought to myself, well, I think Nunes is going to go in there and she's going to take whatever Juliana gives her and dish it right back and knock her out. But I'm also friends on Facebook with Mike Valley, with VFS Striking. So I actually didn't, and it's not like I purposely stayed away from it, but I didn't publicly pick the winner. But I'm sure people would understand that I went with Amanda Nunes because obviously, what she was doing to women in that division, just turning them back one right after the other.
If you're honest and respectful, they can't hold it against you.
Yeah.
You're doing your job. And sometimes when it's a coin flip, I'll openly say, he's extreme couture. Give me the couture guy. But it's a coin flip, honestly.
Yeah.
And I always make mention that, of course, the fight can go in the other direction. I said that with Hermanson. I know he's a beast, especially on the ground. I couldn't believe that fight was mostly on the feet. I think 14 minutes were on the feet, and he still won the fight. I thought for sure he needed to go to the ground. But at this fight, I think the world of Amanda Nunes, and I just think she phoned it in last time.
Yeah.
Maybe, a few months before she got COVID, or maybe just the complacency when you get rich and famous. Or maybe she just didn't think Juliana Pena had the skills, that had the skills to compete with her. But I think this fight, Amanda's going to go out there and she's going to defeat her. She's going to defeat her pretty soundly. Now, whether that'll lead to a third fight, I don't know. My brother said something interesting the other day. He said not all fights head to a trilogy. I mean, once GSP pounded Matt Serra, nobody was asking for a third fight. And if Nunes can do that to Pena, she may want to go back up to featherweight and defend against either the two girls that's in that division.
Right.
But I will be the first to congratulate Juliana Pena. If she can beat Amanda Nunes a second time, that would be gangster, man, because just Nunes has been so outstanding for so long against so many great fighters. Tate, Rousey, Shevchenko, Cyborg. I mean, are you kidding me? The only one she had lost to was to Kat Zingano about 10 years ago or something like that. That's why I didn't think Pena had much of a shot. Pena, I watched it again the other day, and that jab was so key. Every time Amanda wanted to do something, she kept sticking that jab out there.
Right.
And I think Pena improved her striking from other times I had seen her, because there was times where I had seen her and I didn't think that much of her striking. It was focused more on her grappling, but she got the job done. But again, I still think she caught Nunes on a bad night, and I'll happily eat crow if she wins again, but I think Nunes is going to starch her.
Yeah, man. It's hard to go against Nunes, but I'm with Juliana Pena. She's like the hometown girl, but she wasn't born in Chicago, so she's a transplant like me. But
where are you from originally?
I was actually born in California.
What city?
San Francisco.
Oh wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Are you a 49ers fan or a Bears fan?
I'm a Bears fan. I grew up in Chicago, so.
Yeah, you got shortchanged there. You should have kept the Niners for that one. I got 5 titles. What do you guys have?
One? Yeah.
5 losses?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That 86 Bears was something else.
True.
Yeah, I Pena's originally from Spokane, Washington, I believe.
Right.
And I guess she got married and she moved back to the Midwest.
Mhm.
I only see the daughter running around next to her, so I don't know if she's divorced now or what.
I don't think she's with the original.
Yeah, he's like a Chicago cop or something like that
Yeah, he
too.
was a CPD. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. You ever watch that show?
No, I don't.
I went through a little bit of a run with it. It seemed pretty
Oh,
cool,
nice.
but I guess it would make more sense to anyone that lives in Chicago because
Yeah,
they film it there, I imagine. So that's probably a
true.
pretty cool thing.
Right.
What about Ankalaev and Smith? You want to talk about that, or we got to wrap up?
Oh yeah, we can talk about that. I'm just gonna say that I think Amanda Nunes is gonna go out there and prove why she's a lioness. I'm excited to see what she has with the new camp, and I think maybe leaving American Top Team, that was on her mind prior to the last fight. So I just think it's gonna be vintage Amanda Nunes.
And then, do you think if
Yeah.
Nunes wins, depending on how the fight goes, is the trilogy inevitable, or could there be a situation where it's just not necessary?
If she goes out and finishes her, it is not necessary. And I think she's going to finish her. I think she's going to go in there steaming, but motivated, not reckless, but very, I mean, she's going to be laser focused, and she's going to go in there just very tenacious and very capable of ending the reign of Pena.
If she makes Pena look amateur,
Yeah.
then I think they won't need to do a third fight.
Mhm.
If Pena has a moment though, like a takedown and a back take and a rear naked choke attempt, then I could see maybe them, especially if it's fast paced and then Amanda comes back and it ends. That's usually when fights trend hard, is when both parties are in the fight, and they have their moments. But yeah, from beginning to the end, it's just one sided. Who knows? But the UFC likes to pay attention to those trends, to the Google alerts, to the pay-per-view buys, and if it's inevitable, then they'll do it. They'll shove a third fight down our throat. But if Pena wins, I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to want to go up and try and win that title. And Amanda Nunes will be able to do nothing about it because she'll be 0-2 against Pena. In fact, she'd be rooting for Valentina to win because she's 2-0 against Valentina. So if she doesn't decide to hang it up, who knows? Who knows what Amanda's thinking nowadays?
Yeah, it's a different. The rematch could be very different. You see that years later, fighters meet after their initial, confrontation, and we get different results sometimes.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, let's talk about Smith. I actually got to meet him at LFA for the first time. Got to do like a quick little shout. I did give me a shout out, but I made it like a little interview where we talked about the main event and co-main event of LFA, and he was cool with it. So yeah, I got to meet him. It was fun.
So he's a former colleague of ours over at SiriusXM. He's still on Fight Nation. We're Junkie not on Fight Nation anymore. But yeah, we've covered him for a while, and then we got to, share the airwaves, we'll say, promoting his show, he promote ours. Super nice guy.
Yes.
I hadn't interviewed him since Quintet back in December of 2019.
Okay.
The grappling show that had Strikeforce, WEC,
I remember that.
UFC, and Pride. And it was cool. That was probably the last time I saw Jay-Z Cavalcante too. And man, he was good. He was a really, really fun grappler to watch. So was James Krause. A few of those guys really, really got down. So we talked to him then, but then we caught up with Anthony about a week ago, and he was just in good spirits. He's not intimidated by Ankalaev. A lot of people have been saying Ankalaev's a champion. And he went and said, I'm not scared of the boogeyman. That even became the title of the recap that we did on MMA Junkie. But towards the end, we spent about 5 minutes talking about the loss of his mother in May and how he's going to be fighting with a heavy heart. This is the first time he's fought without his mom being able to watch him fight. And then he went on to share these stories about, even though he had a troubled youth and his mom was like, oh, my son, he just keeps getting in trouble. No matter what, even though she would scold him in private, she would publicly always speak highly of her son and never like make it sound like she quit on him. Like she would never say in public, oh, he's a troubled youth. He's that. He's a great kid. you know, he's going to do great things. And then when the door closes, of course, what are you doing? You know, you got to stop getting in trouble.
Right.
And so eventually he turned his life around. And when he told his mom he wanted to fight, she was working even extra jobs to pay for the money that it took for him to go to the next town over, about an hour and a half drive, and get that training in at a higher level than he was getting, you know, at the town he was from. And he spent about an hour and a half going each way until she managed to get enough money to support him having a place to stay. And he said she would still come up every Sunday and do his laundry and cook for him. Dude, it was such a heartbreaking story, but touching story. And he explained it so eloquently. Right. It was really, really cool. I had a tear coming down my eye. If you want to check it out, it's on youtube.com/MMA Junkie video.
Definitely.
Or you can go to our site and scroll until you get to it. But it was like 10 days ago, so you'd probably have to scroll a lot.
Right.
But if you just kind of check that out. It's about 30 minutes, but we covered a lot. We talked about so much. And then at the end, like I say, that tribute he gave to his mom, man, was really, really touching. So I'm going to be rooting for him. He's on a 3-fight win streak himself. Ankalaev, look, I don't know that I mean, obviously great wrestler, great grappler, but so is Anthony Smith. You know, he's a black belt. He can sub people as well, but I like his speed. I like his hands. I can't believe Ankalaev. I mean, I pulled up the odds here before I jumped on with you, and I think I have him still. He's a big favorite. I don't know that he deserves to be that big of a favorite. Minus 520 to plus 410. Wow. Get out of here, man. Maybe minus 200 and plus 170. I think even Anthony Smith would agree with that, but you know, that's pretty damn high, man. You know, minus 500, 600, I think I saw yesterday or something like that. No way. There's not a disparity in talent like that. I don't even know that there is a disparity in talent at all, other than, you know, that wrestling. And to be fair, Ankalaev's going to go a strong 15. Anthony Smith, I know he hates it when we ride him a little bit about, he tires a little or whatever, but no, he'll still give you a solid 2.5 rounds, you know. And I think he learned a lot from that Teixeira fight. I don't know if you remember, man, but that was a high-speed collision, and he almost took him out. But Anthony Smith is worth every dollar. I think he finishes fights like at 95% rate. Yeah. So I expect him to put a lot of pressure on Ankalaev, and if he loses to Ankalaev is going to be his star is going to shine brighter because he's going to get one over on Smith. But I think Smith's going to get the win. He's going to pull the upset here.
Yeah, and this is a tough fight to pick for me as well. I think Smith has just showed that he wants it. You know, the past 3 fights he's come out first round victories, and you know, Ankalaev is a guy that doesn't, you know, that finishes guys too. And I don't know. I just think it's going to be we'll basically know after the first 2 rounds where the fight is headed, if it goes that.
Yeah, I mean, if he takes him down and controls them, it's going to really suck the wind out of the beginning of the pay-per-view. But if Anthony Smith can either stop those takedowns or get up from those takedowns, you know, he'll be in that fight. I'm telling you, I think he has the ability to knock out Ankalaev. I feel like I have a mom whose brother is Ayev, and I'm calling him, Uncle Ayev, but it's Ankalaev. I keep saying Ankalaev, Ankalaev.
And that's the thing, is Ankalaev gonna, you know, have his way with him, you know, and then we're gonna see 2 rounds in. Is it gonna be Ankalaev, you know, on top of the scorecards, you know, with that wrestling? Is Smith gonna be able to stop it?
It could go that way. To be fair to Ankalaev, it could go that way. Maybe he gets up. You know, I'm noticing a lot of fighters are comfortable not taking a dominant position like mount or anything, or taking your back and getting up over the waist, but yet rather staying either in the side control or in a half guard position and just wailing on you. And as long as you stay busy, it's hard for them to stand them up. Now, granted, you know, you're not going to have as many submissions available to you from that position, but I think a lot of fighters are just willing to get the W, you know?
I hear you. This is a hard one, and I am leaning towards Ankalaev just because of the, you know, what he's been doing, that incredible win streak, and I think this is a tough fight for him, though. I don't think he's just going to mow down Anthony Lionheart-Smith, but I guess I'm just going with him. I've seen him go out there and finish guys like Kutalaba, and he's come out on top of some insane confrontations.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, so I just think he has the experience to get that win. But Lionheart-Smith, we'll see. He could actually pull out the which you said shouldn't be as big of an upset as it is on paper, but he could pull off the upset. I couldn't put past him. I'm just going with the favorite in this case because it is such a high favorite. And
yeah, he is gonna pull off the upset, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, they will bet a small wager on that one.
Yeah, look at you, all chalk, all the favorites. You're really going out on a limb, Sean.
No.
What's going on, man? Is today Amazon Prime Day or what? You got all those boxes in the back.
Oh yeah, I know, man. I gotta organize my place a bit more.
Yeah, what's back there? What'd you order?
Oh, a bunch of stuff because I moved in here about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
This place, yeah. Because I'm sure you remembered I had a different background. I had like an older apartment. This one's more renovated.
Very cool. In the city?
Yeah, I have some T-shirts of mine I get made for Fightlete and pro wrestling.
Oh, you gave me one, huh?
Yeah, I gave you one. I
need to pick it up so I can wear it when you call me in a year. To have
yeah,
it back
yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, now I have these now. I'm on Pro Wrestling Tees, which is a T-shirt company, but everyone from a lot of people from MMA sell their shirts.
Can I see it?
Well, this is actually my pro wrestling one.
Yeah, let's hold it up. Let me see it.
I have the Fightlete one on my store too. It's Fightlete PWE. That's my store.
Pro Wrestling Enforcer. Oh, that's very cool.
That's the Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. Like it's cool. Like when I have people that done MMA and pro wrestling, like Stephan Bonner, I can advertise them for both. Or or Filthy Tom Lawler. He's been killing it in pro wrestling recently.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler and Matt, what's his name? The barefoot guy?
Riddle.
Riddle, that's right.
Riddle. Yeah.
About 6 months ago, USA Today Sports launched Wrestling Junkie. And so now we have a site dedicated to covering pro wrestling. But nice. Just like MMA Junkie, we got Boxing Junkie, and now we have Wrestling Junkie. You should check it out.
I will. I'll check it. I'll definitely check it out. Maybe I can contribute because I do have some big interviews lined up.
Talk to him, yeah. If you think you can, I can introduce you to Nick, the editor.
Thanks.
No promises, but I think he would at least take your call.
Okay, cool. And and then like I said, I also with the whole pro wrestling and MMA thing, it's just great to interview people who do both and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And but yeah, I appreciate you. Please plug where we can check out MMA Junkie Podcast. I know you moved the transition from the radio waves to the podcasting world.
Yeah, so we went back to our original roots. We started off as a podcast in 2007, and then we went through our phase of being a radio show and podcast. But yeah, now we're just twice a week. You can catch the show on MMA Junkie, and then now we started doing a little bit more video. Everybody wants video. So we created a couple of video franchises, but one that we're really proud of is our weekly franchise called Spinning Back Click, where we discuss the biggest story in MMA using the panel there on the Junkie editors, writers, radio guys. I host it, and Goze is a frequent contributor, so check that out Tuesdays on the front page of MMA Junkie, or again, you can go to youtube.com/MMA Junkie video, where you can get full interviews like the one I told you about with Anthony Smith or some of the other stuff we do. We do gym drop-bys, and we call that off guard, where we catch somebody off guard. Technically, they're not expecting us, and we pull them aside and do a quick interview, TMZ style.
Nice. Valerie Laredo, she signed with the WWE.
Yeah, she's got a long way to go in my book.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like we had a decent fighter. I mean, maybe some would say good, definitely not great. And But I think she just was more consumed with being famous, maybe, and popular versus what I see, the drive I see in other athletes to become the best. And that's fine. Maybe she felt like, maybe she even recognized, oh man, I can't be a top dog in this sport.
Right.
So now she's going to do this thing, but you got to be a pretty damn good athlete, to compete at that level. So we'll see. I wish her the best of luck. I know that training, the pro wrestling training in itself, is hardcore and difficult. And, a lot of MMA athletes have not taken to it. Even my good buddy King Mo, he actually put in a lot of time learning under Al Snow. But he said, man, he goes, I was used to it because of the grind of pro wrestling and all. But I could tell that this is pretty special what they do. You got to be definitely committed. And at the same time, you got to be ready to perform a lot of times during the year. Whereas MMA, you kind of go at your own pace. And when it's time for your fight, it's time for your fight.
True.
This is a lot more demanding. So let's see if she can keep up with that. I don't think she's got the juice of a Ronda Rousey where she can kind of pick and choose and maybe go on a run, but then back off a little bit. We'll see. We'll see, man.
Well, Ronda Rousey, when she's doing it, she's committed. She's full time.
Yeah.
It's just she took time off to have a child, but when she's back, and she's not part time at all. So I'll give her that.
She does all the house shows and everything?
Yeah, she does. Well, she does every week on SmackDown and certain mostly a lot of different house shows. Yeah, she's reported on there.
Yeah, I mean, if she's doing, maybe it's not like the old days. I remember the old days.
Yeah.
Now they say you got to be on the road 200 days of the year. I suppose that's not as bad as 300 days per year. But Ronda at the same time also didn't. She was never a jobber. There wasn't like this work your way through the ranks. I mean, she got pretty much thrown in to the limelight. And I think you get treated a lot better when you're at the top. You're getting paid some good coin, So we'll see. I'm not hating. She's amazing what she's done in judo, bronze medalist, MMA, champion at Strikeforce and UFC, and pay-per-view star in that sport, and then going over to pro wrestling and becoming a champion there. That's just amazing.
It is. Well, George, I got to let you go. We're out of time, running out of time once again. I appreciate you and MMA and your brother. Tell him I say hello, and I hope to talk to you both again soon. And see you both again soon. Anytime. Take care.